Hi, I just thank you for the opportunity to get a chance to talk to you guys about services at Maryville Public Library and some of what I do as the Youth Services Coordinator. Just to tell you a little bit about me, I am a graduate of Northeast Nottoway, so I'm local. Graduated from Northwest, so go Bearcats, and went away for a while, came back, and I've been at the library for quite some time now. A total of about 8 years, and enjoying doing programming for the birth to 5 crowd. All right. We have as our mission to support a culture of reading, learning, connecting, and creating. I work with babies to middle school. And on the right is a pat mat that I used to do when we did parents as teachers. That's another part of my background. And one of the components of that I really loved was that empowered parents to give their children easily accessible activities where they did things with them and usually used items that were common around the house. And that continues to be a focus for me. And it's even more crucial during this pandemic. Okay, we are based on Every Child Ready to Read. And that is what everything that we do comes back to. We believe that parents can increase pre-literacy skills when they talk, sing, read, write, and play. So you'll hear me say those words over and over again. Talk, sing, read, write, and play. When I make out my sheets to tell parents how they can interact with their child on a theme that I'm doing related to the books and songs that I've done, it always has that written out. So I'll, at the very beginning of an activity, it'll say talk, and then it'll tell ways that you can talk with your child about using the activity that I provide. Or another example would be Play-Doh, which I would say write for that because it's getting those little muscles ready for writing and cutting and other school-ready skills. We'll talk more about that a little bit later. So early literacy is everything a child knows about reading and writing before formal learning begins. And that's something that I feel like I am always working toward. Helping parents to understand is that school doesn't start when they go to a different building. I should say education or learning doesn't start when they go to a building. Parents really are the first and most influential teachers. And one of the reasons that I am so passionate about early literacy is because of what the research says. A lot of kids are coming to school without the skills that they need to learn, and then they just keep getting further and further behind. They catch up during the school year, and then often you'll see that slide during the summer, and it's cumulative, so it can put them far behind. So we want them to be on an even playing field when they get to school. And then here's some more statistics that I think are pretty meaningful. I like research because I think it gives us some good data to work with and a good why for what we do. Nationally, 38% of fourth graders can't read at the basic level, and the percentage of kids who are considered poor readers in first grade and remain poor readers in fourth grade can often be as high as 88%. So if they start off with difficulties, it's very difficult and often costly to try to catch them up. We talked a little bit about this, why parents are so important. Also, I think about the fact that, if they come to one evening event a month with me, that is the only enrichment that they get from me, that they're with their parents so much more, and the parents need ideas on ways that they can extend learning with their child. They also know their child best and know what moods they're most likely to work well in. They know what activities might be best suited from the different activity ideas that I provide. So again, the Every Child Ready to Read is based on research, which I think is important. Parents can feel overwhelmed and think that they don't have the tools that they need to get their child ready to read, but in all honesty, it is not rocket science. And I like that I can empower parents and let them know that they have a very meaningful and important role before they ever go to school. So again, those 5 practices: talk, sing, read, write, and play. And those are used to back the literacy skills that they need. We focus on ages birth to 5, and I like to remind parents that this can just be a part of their normal day. They don't need to add something in, take more time. Parents are very short on time, but you can do a nursery rhyme while you're changing a diaper, which you have to do anyway. You can sing in the car while you're driving somewhere, which you have to do anyway. And you can't overestimate the importance of doing those small things and how they add up. Okay, so our first topic is talk. I really love that first picture because the little boy is pouring the sand through the strainer. He's figuring out what's happening. He's doing some experimentation, and then sticking that spoon in and seeing that as an additional part of the experiment and figuring out what will happen. And so, as an educator and as a mom or caregiver, you can describe what's happening and talk about what's left in the sifter and why didn't that go through, and how much he's able to catch with his shovel, and how many scoops of sand could you put through the shovel, or excuse me, through the strainer when you use your shovel, and those kinds of things. So asking open-ended questions are always good. What do you think will happen next? What could we do now? And then retelling stories through puppets and props can help with vocabulary and sequencing. In the picture on the left, they're doing a search and find sensory activity. So they can talk about what they find, how those things look, all of those kinds of activities. Okay, so this slide is just the singing and reading that I do at every story time. I try to select age-appropriate, interesting books and short songs with a lot of movement. So I try to provide some modeling on working my way through a book, because it does not always have to be straight through the book. No questions, no interaction, all of those kinds of things. In fact, the research talks against that. It supports giving that back and forth interaction with your child as you're reading. So allowing them to ask questions, asking them questions as you're going through. And for the very littles, it doesn't always mean that you're even going to get through a story. If a child is flipping back and forth through the book as a board book, and they flip to one page and you might read a few words, they flip to another page, you might read a few words. And often those board books may not have a story that they're going through anyway. They're just naming things and developing that vocabulary. So even just reading the pictures can be valuable at this stage. These are just a couple of quotes that I like that support and encourage me as I go about my goals in my business in trying to support parents and helping them to remember that reading aloud is crucial for academic success later on. And the easiest one is at the bottom: children are made readers on the laps of their parents. And I just love that quote. And then the Commission on Reading has one: the single most important activity for building the knowledge required for eventual success in reading is reading aloud to children. So that just really capsulizes why we do what we do. Okay, so this slide just gives you some ideas of what I'm talking about when I say write. On the top left, she is stringing some pool noodles. You also see on the table for an older child, there is a pipe cleaner and some beads. So, giving a couple of options for how they might be able to do a similar activity at different skill levels there. And all of these activities are getting their little muscles ready to do school-ready activities later on. So on the top right, she is threading some noodles, and on the bottom doing some Play-Doh, and then some vertical writing on the wall, and it gives a different sensory experience too, because the paper is crumpled. It's a very large space, so they can use large arm movements, and there's brick behind it, so that gives a different sensory experience too in the writing. We can't underestimate the importance of play. I'll let you read through those on your own, but many parents, still are working to understand that when children are playing in a school or educational environment, that they are really and truly learning. I love sensory play. The video that I sent with activities, it did not have a sensory component, which is unusual for me because I think that it's so very important, and a lot of parents are hesitant to do messy play in their own homes. And so I remember at one point a parent being very excited because her child had never done Play-Doh before, and they were hesitant to tackle that in their homes, but to give them that opportunity at the library made her excited. And I think that it's likely she tried it at home later then, when she saw that it could be a positive activity and really not as bad as she was anticipating. Some examples of play up in the upper left. We've got some pretend play, and I love it that there's a dad there enjoying that with his daughter. We've got the baby zone there, little one crawling through, and then some water play as well. So that's just another sensory activity that they were doing. During the regular year, we have weekly Thursday morning sessions, but since the pandemic, we are doing pre-recorded and posted songs and stories, and then I do a Facebook Live demonstration of the activities that can go along with that. And then the first Thursday of the month is usually my evening event, but since COVID, this has just been available from what I did on that morning. As far as diversity, we have some ethnic diversity, mainly through people at the university and at Kawasaki. And we do have a lot of socioeconomic diversity, though, in our literacy events, as well as differences in education and experience, as far as, what was the experience of parents like in school? How was the library presented to them in childhood? Was it a positive or a negative experience? And then trying to either work with that or overcome that is an important piece. So we want them to, above all, love their time at the library and love books. So we see a lot of movement in my classes, and that's completely fine because my story times are not meant for just sitting quietly and listening to books. We also see a diversity in the developmental levels. The age range is birth to 5, but even within a typically developing 2-year-old, you put, 5 or 6 2-year-olds together, and they're going to have different levels of development. Okay, so some of our ideas that we've talked about for partnering during COVID is I would like to make story time to go bags, and those will relate to the theme of what I'm doing for that month. The first theme will be Imagine, and it's based on the book by, I'll do more than one book, but the book that will be in the story time to go bag is Curious George Goes to a Costume Party. And what I am looking for in activities for the to go bags are, ones that look at the various domains of development: social, emotional, intellectual or cognitive, language, and fine and gross motor. And then being aware of the ages and stages of development and what hazards could be present for the very young child, along with modifications, as I kind of talked about earlier. And in my video, you'll also see some modifications of some different activities. And then we want to always go back to those 5 practices from Every Child Ready to Read: talk, sing, read, write, and play. And then, we want to think about what's available in the homes, and provide different options. We're used to kind of thinking about what we have available, but not everyone has paint at their house. So how could we do the activity differently, or is there a substitution that could be used? I mean, you can paint with chocolate pudding if that's what you want to do. That's a great finger painting activity, actually. There are some recipes online for making it. And then just think about, as a busy mom or dad or grandparent, is this something that they are likely to tackle? So you don't want it to be overwhelming. And, closed-ended activities, I try to stay away from. Not that we always do. We've made different activities that are different crafts and arts activities that have a goal, I guess, but process is always valued over final product. And then, trying to remember the babies and ways to make play safe for them. I might have different things in the sensory bin for the older kids, but in this one, there's salt and rice, because that would not be a problem if it was ingested. So, just trying to think about those kinds of topics. So the handouts for parents should include directions for each station or activity, and it's written to the parent. So you are writing it as if you're talking to them. So you don't want to use jargon. You want to keep it really short, and talk about how it relates to the Every Child Ready to Read practices in 1 or 2 sentences. And then give some ideas for how to make some of the stations more suitable for the infants and toddlers, and provide pictures if you'd like to. And then this is my contact information. My email is youthcoordinator@maryvillepubliclibrary.org, and the phone number you can see there. And just feel free to call me with any questions, concerns, any thoughts that you have that you want to run by me. I'd love to give feedback as far as the activities that you're trying and how they might relate, or give some support and ideas about modifications to make it more age appropriate for a larger range. So I look forward to working with you guys, and I think that this is a great project to do together, not only to provide information to parents, but also to build their home libraries, as research backs that as a major factor in literacy, is to have home libraries as well. So providing these books that they will be able to keep, and then activities based on those books, I think could be very powerful. So thanks for all that you're doing, and I look forward to working with you.